Ready to go? Okay, we're gonna open a meeting of Lunenburg Water Commission, January 25th, 2023, and we're gonna start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Did we say that right? I don't think we said that right.
I think you mess up every time.
Yeah, we said it right.
One of us saw it.
You didn't see it right. We're gonna have to put it on the wall over there so you can read it.
Is that your supper?
This is my supper. I'm gonna try to finish all those cookies before we're done.
It's not gonna take much for this.
No, there's only one left. Thanks, John.
Okay.
All right, our first item of business, we have CPA Mark Mueller to review the audit for fiscal 21-22.
Do you need me to give them copies of?
Yeah, they have.
Yep, I have
So
them.
I
Oh.
did the management report.
Toss me one, will you?
I gave them a management report, but they, here. Well, I've got a couple more of the
Yeah, I know, he gave them out,
Do you want, are you going through
Yeah,
this though?
well, yeah, they should have both, because this is just a, basically management use.
Could I get one of those?
Yep,
Nope, one out.
yep, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay,
man,
Okay, so we're gonna start on page 9 if you're out looking at the management report, it's on page 9 too. So it's just the difference
What you
between
gave us.
the regular financial and the actual extra that I gave you is a comparative. Okay, with variances
So this
and
has the
variance
comparative on it.
percent.
yes, yep.
Okay, so I'm just gonna start with the operations of the district and just go right down the line. Because this is probably the most important statement of the year. It's your profit and loss. Water revenue, you had roughly 1.414 million in sales, down 175,000 from the prior year. Okay, so a variance of negative 11%. Actually, probably makes sense. So, and when I saw the variance, I said the same thing. I'm like, hey, what happened? But think about this. In the prior year, it was still a COVID year. More people working from home, more kids staying home from school, a lot more water usage. This year, everybody's kind of returned to the office and kids have gone back to school. So that makes sense to me that the number had gone down. Your other revenue actually has gone up $119,000. That's all the other revenues of the district, as far as like water service connections and everything else. So again, the variance would make sense. I mean, there's a lot more building going on these days and everything else. So all in all, when you take your operating revenues, they were overall lower by $56,000 from 22 to 21. Just heading into the operating expense portion, depreciation and amortization was up $46,000 this year. That's depreciation of your infrastructure assets. The big change for this year was the building, the new building that we're sitting in actually was in construction in progress even through the end of last year, because there were some final invoices and things we were trying to clear and make sure we had the total figure. That cost is now capitalized and being depreciated. Other than that, direct labor down by $456 from the prior year. Utility costs up $16,000 from the prior year. That's everybody.
Only going higher.
It's only going higher, is right. Superintendent's salary was down about $1,200. Treasurer's salaries had gone up by $2,400. If I recall, last year, obviously Christy was here, but Lisa had only been here for part of the year last year, so.
Yeah, because you include in the treasurer's is mine and Lisa's.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
not just
That's
mine.
correct,
Yeah.
so that is, group insurance. So this is gonna be a little bit of a change from the prior year. Group insurance is down $44,000. And the reason is part of that expense actually ends up in the OPEB expense for the year, which is the other post-retirement benefits. So that's the reason for that variance. Pension expense actually went down $19,000 this year. Subcontracting was up about $6,000. Corrosion control and well maintenance up about $9,700. Supplies and general operating was down $24,000 this year, and the reason I believe that happened. There's a new line item that was added to your P&L for repairs and maintenance. So I believe in the prior year that, some of the expenses that were in supplies and general operating have now been moved over to the repairs line.
Makes sense.
We did,
So,
we
yeah.
talked about that last year, kind of itemizing things a little
Right.
bit better
So
for us to.
So that variance kind of makes sense. It was down $24,000 on one line item, but then there's $33,000 in repairs and maintenance.
Yeah.
So, overall, vehicle expenses were up by $10,000 this year. Professional fees down by $13,000. I'm sorry, right, professional fees down by $13,000. Other post-employment benefits expense, down by $6,000 this year. I got the actuary's report, and the actual cost went down according to what they were calculating. I was surprised by it, that cost would decline, but apparently it did.
Yep.
According to the actuaries. Water testing was up by $8,700. Water service connections, this is a new line item, again, that had been broken out, $13,000 this year. And continuing education was up by $4,900.
That was because
Yep.
every 2 years, we're gonna
Right.
see that rise, because every 2 years, we all have to take
Right.
more classes to
Yep.
continue, so.
Telephone costs up by $3,400 this year. Bank charges down by $1,000. Other than that, minor office and postage all dropped a little bit. But all in all, operating expenses were up by $44,000. And if they're just fluctuations up and down each year, but nothing terrible. So income from operations, though, generally due to the decline in water revenues and increases in expenses, income from operations dropped by about $100,000 this year as opposed to the prior year. Now, getting into what they call non-operating expenses for the district, rental income actually declined by $14,000 this year.
That's the sell.
Right, there was
Yeah.
Nextel who left or something?
Correct.
But then they subsequently are coming back, or one of them is coming back.
T-Mobile,
In the
their
next-
term expired, but they renewed.
Okay, so they're gonna come back, yeah. So, I would expect, to see probably more of the 170,000, going forward. The Mass Water Pollution Contract Assistance, that's basically just a number, that's an amount that you get from them towards your loan payments. That's included in the amortization schedules. There was a COVID grant for $4,700. Interest income actually of $2,300, down $3 from the prior year. The big thing, interest expense, and that has to do with all the new general obligation bonds. And there were quite a few payments that were made this year of interest expense prior to principal being paid. So that is the reason why you're gonna see that big fluctuation. So all in all, your change in net position was down 154,000. So with the decrease in revenue from operations and then the added interest expense. I would expect that to, reverse slightly next year and go back the other way.
Us too.
I don't think you're gonna see quite the interest expense that you saw this year. But all in all, I mean, everything, it's still good. You're, still have an excess of revenue over expenditures. So, and that money just goes into future infrastructure. So I'm now switching, I'm gonna flip to page 7 of the report. So it's 7 on the financial statement and 7 on the, let me just go through some of the variances. So as you see, your cash on hand increased by about $390,000 this year. So that's always good. Accounts receivable has dropped by about $9,000. And that's good. Obviously, anytime you can get your cash collected, it's a good thing. We all know how hard that is these days. Inventory is basically just water meters and a couple little items that's always going to fluctuate year to year. So the big change you're going to see again, so under non-current assets, so you have assets not being depreciated and assets being depreciated. If you have the audit report, you would look at page 13 of the actual audit, and that shows you a whole layout of all your assets and what falls into each one of those buckets, okay? So obviously, we see there's been a big change between assets not being depreciated and assets being depreciated. And again, the big thing was the building that was in construction in progress last year has now flipped from the assets not being depreciated to being depreciated. And that's there, other than that, if you were to look at page 13, there were some other additions that, minor additions that were made to meters and mains and office equipment. So, but that's your major change there. I'm gonna go down to the liability. Your accounts payable is up by 48,000, and I wouldn't really worry about that too much. It's still relatively low for the size entity you are. I mean, I think there's just timing of bills being paid. That's all. So I wouldn't worry about that. Accrued payroll is down. Accrued interest payable is actually down. But then if you want to just focus on last year's current portion of long-term debt, and then down underneath non-current liabilities, you'll also see a big flip as you had those short-term notes that have all been refinanced for long-term. So believe it or not, if you were to go through, a debt calculation, the fact that those are financed out for long-term actually does increase the district's borrowing ability, being that your short-term obligations have declined. And being that we are on debt right now, I'm going to have you turn to page 14 in the financial statement, just so you can see what your next 5 years of debt and interest that you will be paying. If you see just a next fiscal year, you should be paying about $360,000 in debt. After that, 2024, it'll drop to 306, then to 234, 247, back to 250 in 2027, and then obviously the remainder after, over the life of the loans. Again, I just going back to where I had talked about the decrease in health insurance costs on the P&L. If you look at under non-current liabilities, the net other post-retirement benefits liability, so that is the liability that's been calculated that the district will carry for health insurance for retirees. And again, caught me by surprise that it actually had gone down $113,000 from the prior year. So, and also the net pension liability, which is right underneath for retirement, is also dropped by $117,000. So that's good. It's good news for the district. Other than that, there's not really a lot more. That's pretty much your profit and loss, your balance sheet, and the major changes.
So we're in a pretty good spot then.
You're in a very good spot, yeah. I mean,
That's what I like to hear.
it's the fact that again, I know it's not a large variance, but the fact that your receivables are going down is to me very important. I mean, I just see right now collecting receivables as a huge burden for anybody. So the fact that people are paying is great. The fact that the debt is refinanced, so your current payments going forward are a lot lower. Right, and if I recall, you have I believe a couple of notes that are pretty close to being paid off. So
One did and one next year.
Yeah.
so that'll be obviously when you look at the debt schedule, it's going to drop.
Cool, we can spend more money.
Yeah, and the next
Well,
one.
we're gonna have
We got
to.
more projects.
Gonna have to for the, when one gets down, we got another project in line and bring it back up.
Right. Well, I mean that's that's the nature of the beast.
Yep.
It's
That's why you pay one off, so you can start a new.
Another one.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's always going to be some infrastructure that needs repair, replacement, or
Always, yep.
Yeah. So that's your financial statements.
That's good, I'm glad to hear it's,
Does
Yeah.
anybody have questions?
well, the only question I had was what position are we in? That's all I
Overall,
got.
are we good or are we bad?
Yeah, I wanna know.
Well, so we're in a position now where we have upcoming projects. We're gonna wanna borrow to do those projects.
Right.
And we're in a position that we can do those projects because we'll be able to get the finances. We're not,
Yeah, I mean, so
We're not
when you
overextending
go,
ourselves.
right, when you go for loans, the first thing they do is look at, your current liabilities.
yep,
And they do, debt ratio calculations. So the fact that those, the bonds for the building are secure, they're in place and have been pushed out over numerous years is gonna, free up your short-term borrowing ability.
yep. Great.
And again, like your cash on hand is also, you have cash on hand, which is also obviously accessible to work on some projects.
Great.
All right, I'm all
All right,
set.
yeah.
All good.
They don't need to, it's approved, it is what it is, right? They
Yeah,
don't
he's
have to
just
do
presenting it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for review.
Yep,
Yep.
okay.
So, well, thank you very much for your time. Great seeing you again.
Yeah.
Yep,
I'm sure we'll see you again next year.
see you next year.
And let's hope we have the same good news.
Yep.
Okay.
Take the hard copies if you guys wanted to keep any of the other stuff.
Yeah.
I'll keep these with us.
Yeah, unless you guys wanna take one home and study it.
Nope.
Yeah.
Do you want that though?
I'll take his word for it.
Yes.
Yep, that was good to have.
It's great for insomnia.
I've got plenty of that, but it's not about numbers.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you, Mike.
Rest of your day.
Thank you.
Our third item on the agenda is Mr. O'Brien from the Howard Street project is here to visit us again.
Oh, no, you have to stand at the podium. Sorry.
Do I have to set it up?
Yes.
I'm gonna eat this last cookie, 'cause I don't want, I know you're getting closer, I
I
don't
was
want
gonna
you
bring
to.
a stick of cookies in for you, but I figured that might be collusion.
Oh, yeah, it's under $50, we're all set. Okay,
Have you heard anything from your attorneys? Well,
Yeah.
first off, did you get our paperwork? All the
No.
emails that
did we?
Yes.
Yes.
We did.
Yes, and we forward them to our
I
attorneys.
spoke
Okay.
to,
I just haven't seen
Amy, what's it, Quello? Well, Amy at KP Law, and I spoke to her, she called the town's attorney,
I don't know how to say it.
and they discussed those emails that were exchanged.
So we have a,
Did you want
we
me?
can give,
Draft.
We have-
Draft, I mean,
I mean, I guess until you guys.
if you guys approve it, it's good to go.
I have one here
okay,
if you want it.
so, well, this was sent to ZBA?
It was sent to me as a draft.
Yeah.
It looked like on the top that it was going to the ZBA, and she was gonna communicate it directly to the town.
So we don't have, we haven't sent this yet to the town
I'm not sending it, I think she was sending it.
Well, does
on
it,
our behalf.
all right,
So then it makes it a public document.
Well, it's in your hands, it's a public document.
Okay,
isn't this,
So my,
that
So-
was sent to the ZBA right here?
so I can either read
But it is
this,
a draft.
I can read this whole letter, it doesn't say draft on it, but it also says the document was emailed.
The email said draft.
And
oh yeah, the email says draft.
Okay.
we, since the last meeting at the ZBA, I wanted to try to figure out if I did not feel the ZBA has the right to tell us what to do. So, because we're a separate government entity due to our acts, and basically this is a response from our attorney that I believe we're gonna forward to the ZBA or we'll bring to the meeting tonight. Our attorney was supposed to talk with town council about this, and I'm assuming town council would talk to your attorney. I can either read this whole thing, or I can just submit it to you as a document. I'm sure they'll probably read the whole thing tonight.
I'll take it as a document, you don't have to read it. This would be like a bedtime story?
Yeah. According to chapter this and that.
Yeah,
I haven't read it either, but I wanna go back on a couple of things if I can.
Housing
Okay.
Authority. What's the C in Housing Authority? HAC, what's the C?
Housing
Council.
authority.
HAC,
Is that
HAC.
council? Housing Authority,
Housing Appeals Committee,
Housing
or
Appeals.
Commission, whatever, HAC. I've got the email from your attorneys from back in December, December 14th, and that was from Brian Riley to Christie. He did some research and I'm not gonna read the whole thing, I can buy time story either, but if you go down to like the fourth line, it says, in addition, section 2 of the 1939, you guys all know that, Act authorizes the district to acquire by purchase of or otherwise any land necessary for water supply purposes. I assume that if the water tank project can work, I want to just clarify that we're not, that was one of the goals that I think we talked about at one of your meetings back in December. We talked about, can the water go out to the project? That was number one. Number two, can we do the tank? And can we do it outside the district? Number three is, can we put a well in, and can we put that outside the district? You guys have told me that the well is not a problem outside the district. We haven't got any feedback from on the tank. And the one thing that just keeps seeming to get forgot about is the first one. Can we put a water meter outside the district and sell to me if I start my own water department? Now, I think in section 2, the way I read it, and I'll start from the very beginning because it's only 5 lines. For the purpose aforesaid, the district acting by and through its board of water commissioners, which I think is you guys, hereinafter provided for, may contract with any municipality, comma, acting through its water department, comma, or with any water company, comma. If I start a water company, which we talked about 2 years ago, back in January of 2021, which is again in your special district meeting minutes, Actually, it's almost, what's today, the 27th?
Almost 25th.
No, in 2 days, we,
years.
our anniversary. At the time, Richard Larkin specifically stated that we could, and I can read that, I don't think we have to, but Richard stated that but the water could still be sold to the developer if he wanted to set something up in the district boundaries. Again, we set the meter pit up in the district boundaries, and I sell it to myself in my project. We all know where it's going.
Right.
There's no kidding about that. But, and at that discussion, we had talked about, Richard said, well, what if you don't pay the bill? I said, well, you'll disconnect me, and he just shut me off. And he said, well, we can't do that. And Fran was good enough to say that's what we do if people don't pay their bills. I had offered to put a bond up, so if anybody was worried about getting paid, something like this is gonna require a lot of water, I'm still willing to do that. I just need to know if, aside from this letter with the ZBA, let's just take the ZBA out of the equation right now. Kevin O'Brien is here asking you, can you guys allow me to put water up to my property?
And I think we had a meeting and we had a district vote that brought up basically that issue for us to discuss with you the possibilities of doing that. And the district voted no on that, which then for us, we're acting on behalf of the district, but the district already said no to that. So I don't want to counteract what the voters said because that's, it's the vote of the district. So the vote of the district happens, then it's through us to take action or not take action on. So they voted for us not to discuss with you about or enter into any agreements in doing that. So my thought and my answer to that would probably be no.
And I understand your positions, and I understand your position, okay? But also in the email, on the bottom, it says that if the development property abuts the district, could an extension to the district be included if that property be sought under section 13 of the act? You just talked about section 13. That's going to the town, to the vote of the people in the district,
Right.
and having a vote on. We all know that was disapproved.
Right.
I'm coming back to section 2 because it doesn't say that for me to establish a water company, it doesn't say you need the vote of the town, of the people in the district. My reading of it, I'm not an attorney, everybody can read and interpret things differently. What I'm asking is, can I, if I had nothing to do with the zoning board of appeals, can I run a water main up there per your specifications, whatever size we determine, put a meter pit at the line of the zoning boundary, and sell water to myself under a water company?
See,
That goes to outside the district. So I would say we aren't allowed to feed outside the district.
But it
For us to enter into the agreement, again, then we'd be going against what the voters said for anything to deal with that project. As far as, it would have to go to either another vote of the district, because I don't feel that we could move forward with that as for commissioners and for the board.
So the way I read section 2, it doesn't apply us to selling water to somebody. It's for us to obtain water from a municipality water company or another water district. So we can negotiate through the Board of Water Commissioners to get water. Like originally when we started, we got water from the city of Leominster.
Yep.
So that's how I read that. But I'm not an attorney. They
Right.
Yeah.
so
Right, that would have to be probably something that would have to be answered by the attorney for us to consider it.
And I 100% agree with you. How do we get your attorney to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, he has asked a few times.
Yeah.
And I think they were always on the side of waiting for the ZBA
I know.
to
Make a
that
decision.
before we go. Because usually when we talk to them about things, they're like, you shouldn't be talking to us. It's all being decided by the ZBA.
Yeah.
So we get pushed off of that too. And I think it's more of a, they're just waiting for the waiting game to see, because.
See what the ZBA
And we
does.
all know that. We all know that's what's happening. Everyone's waiting for the ZBA. ZBA would love to hear
Yeah.
something from you guys. ZBA would love to hear something from the sewer department, but you guys in the sewer department are going
Yeah,
ZBA
Well,
decision.
it's all the higher ups
Understood.
doing the talking, and, I mean, they don't, no one really, other than you, no one.
I know.
no one talks to us. So, we pushed the issue after the last ZBA meeting with our attorney, and this is where we got this letter, as far as the ZBA's right to tell us what to do. Because we're a separate government entity. So, and basically, this letter states that our attorney doesn't agree with your attorney's findings, and feels that the ZBA has no authority over the district. So my question was gonna be, and will be tonight to the ZBA, is what gives you the authority to run a separate government entity or tell a separate government entity what to do?
We believe, as the applicants, that the ZBA handles all the departments in the town. I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
I'm not arguing with you.
Yep.
I certainly understand that, but someone's getting clarification. And
Yep.
that's why I asked them weeks and weeks ago if I could talk to you guys, which I think we've finally settled that I did have permission to come and talk to you. Even though I get reprimanded every time
You
I
have,
go away.
you have the right to come and talk to us. Nobody gave you permission. That's,
Are you an attorney now?
no, I've been watching a lot of this.
He
So,
probably get yelled at too.
yeah.
You've got tonight.
So, yeah, so that's kind of our stance right now. Our
And-
attorney
and
has
I
said, wait
understand
for the ZBA. We're trying to be proactive. The ZBA hasn't really reached out to us, but in watching and being there, we brought this to our attorney, so we have a
They
position.
have reached out to you, they've invited you to meetings. Might
Yeah.
not want to ask you anything, but you guys have nothing to do
So,
for 2.5 hours.
can we
a day.
discuss any of the stuff that's being proposed for the ZBA, or they came
No,
up
I
at the
think we
last
should,
meeting?
anything that's being, I mean, I can't speak for their board, what's gonna be proposed
Just what we
tonight.
heard at the last meeting, I didn't know if we could ask if that's moved ahead, or,
I don't think it has, because there wasn't a decision on it. At the last meeting, it was asked for basically a stoppage in the time clock for you
We're
and for the
discussing, I
town.
believe we're discussing that.
And
That's
then
the only
it
thing we're
was an
discussing
option, it was an
tonight.
option, and I'm sure that's gonna bleed into tonight, as to getting clarification, specifically on this water sewer issue and the ZBA's power. And that's kind of what I'm gonna push on tonight, that I don't believe, based on our attorneys and based on that we're a separate government entity, that they don't have the power to tell us what to do, but somebody else might say different. Who knows?
The problem I have is, and the reason I keep coming here being a pain in the backside, and I'm sorry, is that if the ZBA gets the authority, or they're told by the HAC, if we go to the HAC or court, whatever, if they say, yes, that the zoning board of appeals has the authority to act in your, step in your shoes in the sewer departments, those are the only two departments we're dealing, excuse me, that we're dealing with. If they say yes to that, now you all could come back and appeal them. You could sue them and say, no, you can't
So
do
the
that.
ZBA, well, it depends if, I would take, if the HAC made a finding, and I would assume that, let's say they made a finding in your favor, because if it's not in your favor, then it's not a discussion. If they made a finding in your favor, then I would assume that the HAC would somehow contact us and state how the zoning board has the authority to do what they want to do, and then we'd have to run that by our council and make sure it's authentic, and then we deal with what we deal with at that point.
I agree.
I think, don't expect them to reply to you. I think they would go through the ZBA.
That's-
Just my thinking.
However, it's got to come to us so that it can go to our attorney, so our attorney can say, hey, you guys do have to. do this or don't have to do this.
Well, that's why I'm trying to get to the point of, can I put the meter pit up there and sell the water as a water company? That's, because if that's 6 months down the road, a year down the road, I'm 6 months to a year down the road.
Yeah.
Now I'm back at the same question with you guys again.
Again,
And I know nobody wants to jump on board and make the call. That's been pretty clear from everyone's emails, and everyone's like,
Yeah.
let's see what happens with the ZBA.
Yeah, where it's at right now, I wouldn't agree that we would be able to do that. So it's in this process now of going through the ZBA and the HAC, and then I think something has to come back to us at that point so that we can respond to it.
I'm gonna read this at some point,
Yep,
like in 10 minutes,
yeah.
while I'm waiting to go to the ZBA meeting
You have
tonight.
2 papers on there? 2 pages?
Oh, it was front and back.
Oh, front
I just
and
made
back, okay.
copies. That's-
Okay,
Yeah, I was gonna
yeah,
ask if you got one of
basically in a nutshell, did we send this to the ZBA or no?
it was draft mode, she wrote the letter,
So she's,
so
From
she's
KP.
gonna send it.
so I guess what we would have to ask is that the town council, if they're there tonight, if they've received this, if not, we should bring some copies of this.
She did say no matter what, town council's gonna make a comment regarding this.
Okay,
So whether
But
it's,
yes, I
it's
would
a
bring some
full
just
reading
in
of the
case.
letter or not.
okay.
But this is from the, so I didn't wanna send it because it came from, if I wrote it, then I would've sent it.
Right.
But it didn't, it's hers, so I can't send something that's hers.
In a nutshell, it's our council not agreeing with your council on the ZBA having the right due to
How did
the,
I know that was?
basically.
I figured they were gonna cheer my attorney
Yeah.
on and say, yes, he's 100% correct.
Yeah, so that's basically in a nutshell what this is, and one way or another, it's probably gonna come up at the ZBA tonight, and then we'll go from there.
We've been wanting to resolve it.
Yep.
We've been wanting to resolve it with the HAC, if that's the way
I thought that was a great idea though.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world.
And they don't make it, it was just the HAC would be making, I believe, a ruling on the sewer and water only.
That is correct.
It would just be going to them for that.
Just that for now, yeah.
Yeah, so if it did go to that, it comes out, yeah, we have to run water and sewer there, then boom, we all know the direction we have to head.
Yeah.
And then we start moving ahead on the,
But again,
Everything else.
from my own viewpoint, I'm looking at it, what if they deny me, the ZBA denies me the 40B?
So they gotta take them to
I've
court.
still got the subdivision, I got 122 lot subdivision. Can I bring the water up there and sell to myself from through a water company? And again, I asked that 2 years
Yeah.
ago, and as far as Dick Clark was concerned, we could do that. So I just want to clarify.
In my mind, we could with permission from the voters. If the district voted to allow us to sell it there would have to be specifics. It would have to be an article to the district. And my thought is the district would have to vote on it. My guess is if it was an article, it would probably be specific to a certain plan up there. And I'm sure that there's people in town that would wanna rewrite that article as soon as it came out and restrict it as much as possible. But I don't, I would say that we can't, as a board, I would not feel comfortable making that decision.
That's why I'm asking you to dump it on your council, for them to make that call.
So I guess we'd have to cross that bridge after the ZBA bridge.
See, and your first council said it was okay, and I'm relying on that, so
Conceivably,
you can't, my attitude is you can't change council to change the answer, so.
right, no. So, but I would say that we have to wait for the ZBA.
And I know you didn't change council to change the answer, I know
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Not accusing you of that.
yep, nope.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're at.
Okay.
We didn't bring up a lot of concerns about the water side of it. There are a few. I think they were addressed through our conversations on infrastructure and how we would do it. But nobody's told us yet that we have to.
I don't know if I told you, we did the flow test.
Yeah.
Jason Beal, that was good, didn't really change any, full flow hydrant, didn't really drop any pressure
Anywhere
in the
else?
system, so there's more water than that whole side of town would ever need.
And that was, just so we're clear on that was something we asked for,
Yep,
through our engineers, and we paid for.
They paid
Yep.
for it.
So, just so nobody thinks you're doing Kevin O'Brien a favor. call the project a favor.
Okay,
You know, it's a small town, and God only knows, that's why I didn't bring the cookies in.
it's under $50.
Well, if they were the
They're only,
right,
what, 10 bucks
All
a
the
box?
50.
$5.
$5 a box.
You could have brought 10 boxes, yeah.
All right,
There's more than that on the counter.
yep. So I think we're kind of stuck to the ZBA meeting tonight and see what happens
We're good for
until
tonight.
they make a decision. If you want, this is good reading, you can go have,
That'll take a long time, huh?
yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, make sure you have that for you, I'm sure your
They
council will
start at
have.
7, but this is on the
that,
agenda
so.
for 8.
Thank
All
you.
right,
This is still at 8 o'clock, right? They didn't change it up.
so it's 8 o'clock?
Yeah, it's.
Well, it
an hour
starts
later,
at
'cause
7,
They had a
but
couple
he's
things
on the
prior
agenda for
to.
8.
I'm not going to bed till late tonight.
Dude, I have an hour ride home.
I know,
She's got a half an hour.
I know.
You might be taking him home.
My whole 5 minute stretches.
I'll be home in bed watching it on TV.
Yeah.
If it's even on.
Yeah. Great,
Thank
all
you.
right, well, thank you for coming in, we appreciate it.
Lovely way to spend my 4 o'clock hour.
Well, at least we don't have our meetings at 7 anymore, because then you'd be jumping on top of one meeting to the next.
Did you not notify anybody about this meeting tonight?
Everybody's notified about this meeting tonight.
Posted everywhere. The storm must have scared him away.
Yeah, all that snow we got
Yeah.
outside right now. It's gonna be coming at some point, poison.
I hope not.
All right, so next item on the agenda we have is a discussion with an H2 property, what's an H2 Properties?
H2 Properties
Oh,
is the
that's the
name of
name
their company,
for
sorry.
110 Burridge Street.
He called and the storm scared him away and asked if he could postpone to meet with us until our next meeting on February 8th.
Okay, and I'm assuming our next,
We should discuss it a little bit, just so you guys are aware of it.
okay,
The contaminated property on Burridge Street.
Yep.
The old Penniman property. He would like to extend the water main to that area. But the difficulty part is he's not in the water district. So I told him it'd be a good time for you to, come see the board, see if they're interested in expanding. It's just a small little expansion area. We could make it as big as you guys would like, but I think it just, for his little property, it would just be a little expansion.
so where would it go from Page and Reservoir down Burridge?
Yep.
Yes, yep.
Now, when you say his little project, did he, what's he gonna, did he buy the whole
I-
parcel, or?
I don't know if he's buying it or if he's working for the people who own it. We didn't get to any of the details. But it was a small little housing development. I think he said 20 houses maybe, something.
Well, I looked at
But
those.
the concern was the people with well sites on the other side of the road that have water quality issues that they would like to, finalize and eliminate, so,
You mean they want
That would be a
water?
dead end though, right?
yes.
There'd be no way to, I mean, the only loop would either be to go up Arbor Street or to go down to Page and Watt and up to
Yeah,
Clark.
that'd be huge.
There is
Very
water down
kind of-
Page already.
Yeah, so he would tie on at Reservoir Page,
Reservoir,
run it
wait,
down Page and run it up Burridge, so it'd just be a small little dead end.
do we have anything like that in town?
Dead ends?
Yeah, oh, we got a whole bunch of them,
Yeah,
like.
tons of them, yeah.
So he wouldn't be connecting on at Reservoir Road and going up
You'd be at
Page
Reservoir at Page, you'd be going up Page Street
from Reservoir.
from Reservoir with a 12-inch line and then an 8-inch line down Burridge.
I think the big thing is like how many of houses would we affect along the way? Like how many houses could we pick
Benefit
up?
from it? Yeah, there's
Yeah.
actually, Page is pretty
And
lowly
then
developed.
then the same thing, if it's not in the district, we would have to, he'd have to come to us with a plan and an article
Petition,
to
article, we
expand
have
the
to put an
district.
annual meeting, just like we do with Kevin, yeah.
Yep,
Is he planning, oh, we're gonna have.
should
so
we have him talk to Kevin first? About how much fun that is?
What's that?
Maybe you
Trying to
the
expand the district?
can probably both use the same attorney, Kevin.
Yeah.
What do you think I'm here for?
Yeah, so I guess we can wait and
Yeah.
see.
But now, see, I looked at that plan for Penniman, because we were thinking about, remember I asked you about the water down there? There was 50 acres down there. They subdivided 10 acres off for the pollution. It's not even in the deed anymore for the 40 acres. So if nobody is informed about it, you wouldn't even know it was there, because they're not even selling that section.
Yep,
And if you made a loop in there, no cul-de-sac, you can put 41 houses in there. if you don't make a cul-de-sac, you can only go 800 feet back, so there was like 21 houses, I think, or 20. But it's not gonna be a small project.
Didn't that at one point have access on Reservoir Road?
No, that's
Yeah.
where Powell's house is.
Yeah.
No, it didn't have access on Reservoir Road.
Okay.
I think they were interested in purchasing it, using that as an access way.
Yeah, Powell was gonna purchase it and put his road out there so he could run the water main right down.
Right, but then, I mean, there's a
Reservoir Road.
house lot out there now.
Two of them,
Yeah,
Yeah.
two kids are building
kids.
out there.
yeah.
So, but,
All right,
So anyway, so he's
He'll
gonna
be
come
in-
and talk to you guys.
Yeah,
and-
next meeting.
Yep, next meeting and see what you guys think, and I figured I'd let you guys know about it so you kinda get a heads up.
yeah, well, I don't know what he, there's really nothing to think about except getting it in front of the water
Voters.
takers.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's basically what we can do.
Yeah,
Okay.
just tell him the plan and what he has to do to go ahead.
Yep. Okay, we have budgets discussion, 23, 24, I think we're gonna kind of,
I was gonna say, we kind
Okay.
of went over a lot of the stuff last time, and I think to finalize a lot of it, we need to finalize
The
our
payroll.
executive
Yep.
session at the end.
Yep.
So,
so we'll hold off on that. Minutes of January 11th.
yeah, put everything at the end so you can get this stuff.
Oh, yeah, we have to make a motion to accept the minutes.
Yes.
What was the date?
January 11th.
I'm gonna make a motion, we accept the minutes of January 11th.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, while we're at it, we can sign the warrants. I thought Woody said he stopped by and signed the warrants.
I didn't have the expense. He signed
Oh,
the
okay.
payroll.
Oh, look at that, me and him sign almost the same way.
Yeah, can't read either one of them.
Nope, that's what I like about it. No, I didn't sign that, can't you read my name? All right. There are the warrants.
I wanna read that.
Review and sign warrants, commissioner, superintendent's additions.
Yeah, I got a few things. The Mass Ave project, I know there was concerns from the board about doing the test borings for us to obtain our permit from the state. So I called the state, talked to them, and they said that's a requirement for the permit, have to do it. They won't release that as a requirement. So I agreed, I'm like, okay, we'll do what we gotta do. So I spoke to Stantec, and I told him about the conversation with the state, and I said, let's get this thing moving. So the test holes are being conducted this Friday, and they're gonna bring a small little rig out, and we believe we won't even have to go on the roadway to do it.
This Friday or next Friday?
They're gonna
He
take
said
the,
this coming Friday, this was last week he mentioned it.
they're
so-
gonna take the
Oh, okay.
guardrail down?
No, they're gonna do it where the pits are gonna go.
Oh, okay.
To start the drill. So I told Gary, Stantec, that we had another broken main. I said, I want this thing repaired ASAP. We're getting tired of this, it's getting worse. And so I requested new budget numbers, because the original one was 800,000 3 years ago. I'm sure it's.
Jesus.
Yeah, if we're gonna have to bump that up, we have to do that at our annual
So
meeting.
Yeah.
I mentioned, I said, so I think, I'm not sure how the bidding phase will go. If it's bid very early and the project can start, like say April, then we may need to do a special meeting at the annual meeting, so the money's available immediately. But we,
Jeez, I can't get over, that's a heck of a lot of money.
800,000?
Yeah. You don't think so?
Not when, no,
Not anymore.
not anymore, cause it's gonna go up from there.
Pretty soon,
Cost of
a
the-
pickup truck.
Yeah,
So anyway, things, I told Gary, we gotta get it moving. I was hoping to have the change order here to do the test holes, but it's not, so. We're still gonna do it anyway, so kinda have to do it, so.
How are we making out with conservation?
I
that's,
haven't talked to him.
we,
Are you on the water main job?
Yeah,
All good there. Yeah, so they kicked it out that we needed to notify the butters. And we kind of didn't really want to do that because there's so many abutters.
Yeah.
So then they changed it to only the abutters of the wetland area, I guess. So they
That-
backed off, so we notified not all the abutters, but.
what's there, about 10?
Oh no, they changed it, we have to do them all.
No, I could have swore Anthony because Anthony was handling that, right? Whitman and Bingham or Haley.
Yeah, they
whatever it is
backed
now.
off, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, because I think they had sent us, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was
So the.
smaller scope.
The word that I heard at one of the last meetings regarding another project that within 300 feet of the wetland area, you have to notify the abutters. So it wouldn't be all the abutters all the way along 2A. It would just be, you want to clarify this with conservation, but on a previous item, they said that you only have to notify the abutters within 300 feet of the wetland
Okay.
if it's a specific project.
All right, so
And there's only
whatever
that
is
one wetland.
So we did all of
It's
those.
done,
so
yeah,
we're all
that part's
So
done,
it's all-
yeah.
Everything's
So-
conservation ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so that was my understanding at one of the last meetings as far as that goes.
Okay, so
Okay.
Mass Ave's moving ahead. Well number 2, we're doing the upgrades out behind the well, which is actually, it's actually called well number 909G. We went for a whole separate permit for well number 2. The well guys are out there putting in the test wells now to do the testing on it, the long-term pump test.
Is that the one way down? Or up front?
You drive down the first well you come to when you drive down the road.
That block building right there?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, the little small building. So they're putting the wells out there. I mean, we've already done wells and did a pump test, but the water quality was very high in manganese, so we kind of redid the well field, moved it further to the north. And from what we're seeing, the water quality is much better. So, I mean, it's not a huge producing well, but it's gonna help.
Yeah,
And so anyway, so they're doing the test well, so we're gonna start scheduling this to do the long-term pump test. So we're gonna use the loggers and all that high-tech stuff and monitor the water quality, and hopefully it turns out good. So anyway, so that's all still moving ahead. Yeah, everything even on that side of things is difficult getting people. Everybody's so busy that it's difficult to get them out. So one other thing was that the letter we received from the Woodlands. I don't know what you guys want to just acknowledge you received it. Come up, discuss it. I know Woody was in, and he thought we should send it to our council and have them address it and squash this and be done with it forever.
So, yeah, in reading this, I mean, I can either read the whole thing out, or, it says to me that they're trying to seek reimbursement from the water district for use of their paved road to get to the well because we have an easement. And then there's particular emphasis being placed upon the pilot study period, which we're gonna bring maybe one truck in there with equipment, and then it's all light-duty pickup traffic, it's like regular traffic they would have there. So, I think that this is something that, yeah, I think it needs to, they sent us a letter from a professional, I guess our professional attorney ought to take a look at it and draft up a response to them on whether, because I don't see, it talks about damage, and all we're doing is what everybody else does that drives on that, it's road. It's wear and tear, it's not damage. So I don't consider regular use as damage. But that's my opinion, and I think that at this point where they've got a letter from their council to us, we send it to our council, and because it notes, it refers to Mass General Law, Chapter 17 of the Acts of 1939, Section 3, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's attorney jargon for me.
yeah, it's
I didn't go to law school, so
all baloney.
I would think I would agree
Can
with.
we specifically have them touch on the concern of the residents for safety at the bottom? I mean, do we have rights to
There's a,
trespassing, fencing?
I think we could, this letter opens up to a lot. I don't want to get into a huge legal cost for this, but as much of this that we can address, I would try to have them address.
All right, so we'll send it
And
to
then
them.
at that point, we can, we can read this all out, or at least respond to them and see what our attorney says, whether we have, whether we have an obligation.
I mean, I'm not an attorney either, but I mean, we have an easement to pass and repass on the road. The easement doesn't say only once a day, twice a day.
Right.
Or with this size vehicle.
And whatever,
So-
whatever to do within, to operate water. So that's why I think at this point, it just
So
needs
the
to.
attorneys, they can deal with that.
Yep,
And
yep.
terminate it.
Okay, I
See
read
whatever.
this, I read this thing. The back page is what interests me the most. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I'd like to get Mrs. Pease and Mr. Fortune in here one more time before we waste any more money on this, and tell them what our intentions actually are.
Well, I think they,
I don't know, they don't know, because I'm looking at a paragraph right here, and it says, public water supplies deem such activity, public water supplies, which is us, we can shut that off to be threatening or injurious to a public water supply protection area, which that is. So we can close it down, we can fence it off, we can put a building over the top of it if we want, we can do just about anything we like. So I don't think they really got that message yet.
I think that, I think some of the stuff goes against the working together
Oh, they're not
concept that we've been
working
doing
together.
at this.
They never have.
You know,
That's-
that's why at this point, I mean, I've mentioned to them in the past that if all of our stuff goes through professionals, we're not lawyers, we're not engineers. If, you know, the burden of proof is on the person that believes that they're right, so they spent the time and money with the attorney, so we'll go back to our attorney and, you know, just be another cost to the district. that we will-
Well, I'm not in favor of spending another nickel on an attorney right now.
The thing is.
What I am in favor of, moving along, like I talked to somebody earlier, move along with the project. How are they gonna determine if there's some damage?
That would be the burden would be on them, but at this point.
Right, but I
don't-
wanna talk to them about that and tell them what that is gonna entail. What they're gonna have to do to satisfy us, to prove to us that we damaged the paving.
Right, and I wouldn't agree as what you say, even damage, it's regular use
Well,
and
it's
wear and tear.
It's
You
like
know.
I said before, it's.
Yep, and
But I don't
I'm
wanna-
not an engineer, so I can't determine how many other different trucks and so forth go in there that, you know, if we go in there one day and the same day a fire truck goes in there and does damage just because we're in there, now it's
our
our
fault.
Point
damage.
fingers, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's
so
why I'm
again, that's
saying.
why I feel that at this point, you know, they've taken the time, this is coming from their professional, send it to our professional, answer their questions, and unfortunately, all this comes into, what we have to budget for as a district. If people wanna keep going down these lines, then we're gonna have to increase our prices, because we have to keep going back professional.
Well, I'm
this.
dead set against getting an attorney involved in this right now. I don't think,
Well, I think we had
That's
the-
okay. I don't, to me, I would not invite them in here. I mean,
No.
we're done.
I feel like it just kind of keeps going. I guess
yeah,
that's what,
okay,
you know,
I guess you're
when
right, but
Fran
I
and
don't
had
think,
talked.
I don't think they know what they're getting themselves into.
And that's why I guess, you know, when Fran and I had first saw this and read it, that was kind of our reaction was yours, but then it's the emotions getting involved and we
Right.
keep going through and we keep,
Yeah.
it feels like the same thing we've said. We keep feeling like it's going around and around.
This has been dragged on now for what, 2 months now? This
Yeah,
same
so,
thing?
so
now-
I guess if we went to KP, yes, it's gonna cost us money, but hopefully this is it. This is not just our emotions and our reaction
I
to what
think
you're
this
saying.
is, I think this is it already.
I know.
File that piece of paper and move forward.
You could do that.
Yeah.
You know, what are they gonna do? They're gonna,
Well,
I mean, if there's a
we
little,
would- if we-
if there's a little hole over there in the parking lot and they think that we did it, what are we gonna do? Give them $2 to fix the parking lot, or what's their problem?
My guess is they would have to hire an engineer to do a study on the
Yeah.
condition of the pavement right now. We'd have to do.
Pictures, cameras,
We'd have to figure out
photos.
how many trips we go in there.
Yeah.
They'd have to determine how many other trips and how many other heavy vehicles go in there.
okay.
That burden would be on them, but to answer them, not through our attorney, they basically sent us this from their attorney, and it's it's either their opinion or their attorney's opinion under the acts and mass general laws that we're responsible. I think that this is where we would, I guess if you would vote not to send this to our council tonight, I would vote to send it to our council tonight, so we'd be in a deadlock. Is that where we're at?
I got an idea.
Yeah?
Do
I say we don't send it, but if you say you do send it, send them a check with it.
Well,
How's that?
you can acknowledge that you received the letter. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Then you can say, I wanna make a motion, we send it to KP Law, and you don't vote, or whatever.
I can't make a motion, so
I-
John can
my-
make a motion on what he wants to do with it, but,
All right,
I know what you
I'm
did.
gonna make it short and sweet. I'm gonna make a motion that we file it.
okay. So open for discussion. I would.
it wasn't seconded.
I wouldn't be for that, well, I can't, can I second it?
You can.
No, I'm not a board member.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
no,
somebody-
nobody can second it.
Nobody can second it.
No,
So you make a motion,
Instead,
but I can second it, but then, John, so it's, for right now, this is out there, I would, how about we just let Fran send them an acknowledgement?
Yeah.
And
I'm
then
for that, as long as
when we get together as a board again, maybe we can have a little more insight as
we'll put
to,
it at the bottom of the agenda as future
Yeah.
discussion,
put
but
it as it's still not solved?
As long as we don't spend any more money of the water users' money.
I'm tired of spending the time even talking about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, receive the letter, acknowledge it, that was my opinion yesterday.
And then we
And then I let
have
the
so many
KP
other
decide.
hurdles that we need to jump before we even start this
Yeah.
study.
Copeland and Page is gonna send us back the letter that's gonna be about the same as this one, only opposite. So what are we gonna gain?
We don't care what their attorney says, we care
No.
what our attorney
Yeah.
says.
Right.
Well, our attorney has already sent us a letter about the, we already got the easement and everything. I mean,
Yeah,
we
he
know
says
what
like-
our rights are. What are we even talking about it?
This is
And how does an attorney
Clarification.
override the opinion of an easement?
So were you guys, just so I kind of understand my notes and what we're doing
We're
going
gonna-
forward?
we're gonna-
You're authorizing Fran or
to acknowledge the
to
receipt.
send
to
this lawyer CC to Joan Pease, we acknowledge your receipt of your letter?
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's it?
Yep, goodbye.
Okay.
For right now,
Okay.
Couple years.
yeah, see
You
what
guys
it
know
is.
what, I'm getting tired of this stuff.
So am I. I'm full of it up to here and I've just had it.
Okay.
Or I mean, they're full of it up to here.
Okay. So, any other superintendent commissioner additions?
So we had a tank inspection, another one just for kind of appraisal kind of thing, just to look at stuff that we could fix on outside. And one of his he's gonna send a proposal, but one of his recommendations, he doesn't like all the cellular equipment, is a mess. I told him I wanted to do a tower, but getting the permit to do a tower with the ownership to the right of way is
Yeah.
difficult. But anyways, they do a thing, it's called a corral. And it's like a tower mounted on top of the tank, and all the cellular stuff goes on top of that. And he says it's at an elevation where you can work on the tank and not have to touch it ever again. And it was very expensive though. It was more than what it would cost if we put up a full blown tower. So but I said I'd be interested in seeing what a true price is. He was just
So-
kind of winging out numbers.
We don't really have we don't have an easement to get to that? It's like, nobody knows who owns Pope Road.
Yes, right, true. Pope Road was a town road. It was an abandoned town road, so we didn't know who to buy the road, the actual owned land when the road was put in. I mean, it was taken from somebody. Somebody owned that road before it was a town road, and so we never could find out who the owner was. So we took an easement by eminent domain. So
So we have an easement, but we don't have
we don't
ownership.
have ownership to it. If we had ownership to the road, then we have true access. We could probably put up a tower if we had the land for the falls.
Well,
Is it-
after so many years, if you maintain a piece of property, take care of it,
Squatters' rights.
whatever, rake the leaves, plow the driveway, but after so many years, it's yours.
So
wanna
can
take
you
it.
change
we
that
do it-
from easement to eminent
Can we
domain?
do a full taking of it?
We could.
Yeah, and I don't think you'd have any
I
problem.
actually have calls into KPS and the exact same thing, so.
Yeah, if we
I'm working on it.
if we can do that, then it would clean up a lot of future stuff.
We got a water main right up that road?
Yes,
Well, that's
Yeah.
what the easement would cover. Have you been up there lately?
no, but I could, you don't have to go up there to see what's
Boy,
going
have they
on.
cut some trees up there.
Yeah.
Right down the back of that guy's house.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it, so we're working on stuff on the tank for cellular stuff.
Okay.
Then Christie, I got you on the list for the lead stuff.
Yep.
Christie's been working hard on the lead.
The lead copper roll, we talked about it a while
Yep.
ago. Been talking with 3 different firms, I guess, to try to get quotes from all three of them to figure out, because I want someone to handle this lead copper rule start to finish, meaning submit for the SRF funding. Help us with records, help us with tie cards, finding locations, customer service, meaning reaching out to the customers that we don't have confirmation if they have lead in their homes, to just figuring it all out to the end of submitting it to DEP, submitting the whole proposal. So as of right now, I've done a ton of Zoom, so I'm hoping by the 8th, have some kind of proposals that we can look at. There's two engineering firms that I really like. The third one seems a little vague, so I'm thinking an engineer, because we need very specifics for this. Long story short, I want to put an article on this annual warrant because we actually have to allocate the money. We have to go through for the SRF funding, for the Mass Clean Water funding. We have to allocate the money, and our article has to be written very specifically to what they want, because it's going to be worded with anticipation that once this project is done, they will give us the money back. But we actually have to allocate the money first. So that's the difference between the principal forgiveness and a grant. A grant, they give you the money. The principal forgiveness, we have to actually allocate the money, spend the money, and then they will give it back to us.
But we will know before we spend the money that we're getting it back?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is there a time frame on this project?
It has to be submitted to DEP by October 16th of 2024, I believe.
But doesn't the whole thing have to be done by 2025 or something?
We want to get work on it now.
Yeah.
Well, the actual submittal, so there's a couple different parts to it. There's a submittal to DEP that basically it's going to be this huge report that's going to say, okay, we have 2,500 customers. On the customer side, do they have lead and copper, yes or no? On the water main side, is there copper,
How do we know
lead?
that? We gotta go in everybody's house?
So that's the process of why we're going for funding and what they're paying for, is we're gonna do some in-house, but we're also gonna be paying the firm to do a ton of this for us. So whatever records we have, we're gonna sit there and say, okay, here you go, we can confirm, we have records that 1,500 of these 25 service connections are confirmed, we're done. Then they're gonna take that bulk of who do we not know, and they're gonna create flyers to send to these people and say, hey, can you take a picture of the line coming into your home? Scan this, send us the picture. There's the proof that it's not there. Then, so it's a little bit of legwork, but all of that is included in this principle of forgiveness.
Now, see, they're gonna accept that, because that's only a picture of the meter area. What about the plumbing that goes up into the cabin?
That's not up to us. We're only concerned
It's-
from the meter to the street.
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay, so you
So
just
that's-
need that little piece from the
Yeah.
wall to the meter?
Yeah, so if it's copper
So
there,
it's-
it's copper outside.
Okay,
Yeah, so it's them kind of handling all of it, but then on top of it, the real benefit of it is the GIS. We can incorporate all of this.
We hope. We can.
Yeah.
I'm confident, I'm hopeful, I guess, that we can incorporate all this GIS mapping into it. We can create the platform to, while they're going to these homes and saying, okay, here's the curb stop, this is house number 123 Main Street. Yes, we confirmed they have no copper, we're gonna map it. Well, that's all gonna be part of this process, so we can get the principal forgiveness, but that is gonna help the district in the years to come. Because
'cause
we're gonna
everything's
have
gonna
this
be
new
mapped out.
platform on this mapping, so. So that's kind of why I'm leaning to the two engineering firms. They kind of have a little bit more like, this is what we can submit, this is, they're willing to pay for this, so.
So we'll see how it goes.
Now,
We'll submit everything.
Who's responsible for finding somebody to dig these all up? The engineer?
So that's why I'm leaning to the engineer. The third group that I'm talking to kind of seemed to be like, oh, well, you can do some of this and you can do that. And I'm like, well, and talked about us filling out the actual application for the SRF funding. And I'm like, no, that's what this whole thing encompasses, is that you hire an engineer and they're at the top. They will hire, and I've talked to the engineers, the
hire
other part of it is you
locators
have to
and-
have 8.7% of it has to be WBE or
Yeah, minority business.
minority
or
businesses.
But the engineers know who to hire and what to do with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they would do a vac truck on
Yeah.
a limited basis, so
Yeah.
so we're gonna work it out.
All prevailing wage, but all free, John.
Yes,
So
Well,
The
we're
district gets
hoping,
this for free.
well,
Yeah,
we're hoping,
right.
we're gonna submit for everything.
Yes.
We'll see what we get.
Yes.
But one thing I wanna make it clear, so let's say the GIS part, we cannot tie it to this thing. That's huge to us, cause I
Yeah.
mean, we brought it up and we wanna go at this thing anyway, so if we cannot get the GIS as part of this program, I wanna do it separate. Let's appropriate the money, it wasn't huge money, 17,000 I think it was.
so that's kind of what our last Zoom we had with one of them was. The actual initial startup may not be included. So the district, like you said, may have to pay for this startup fee to get things, to get the platform, to get all of that. But then the actual mapping and the GIS part, he thinks they could include that part. So yes, it may be, but to do, I don't know what it would be. Like you said, if it was $17,000 to get going, but it's to map a whole.
Forever. It's,
I know, so,
it's huge.
Basically, you go out with a device and it tells you, you walk on somebody's lawn, boom, there's a gate valve.
Yes, I
Yeah.
mean,
Even if you can't see it, it's there.
yeah.
yes. I
On
mean,
your phone,
and when
easy for the
you remember
guys.
the guy was in, he came and gave that little, or was he gave it to us?
Yeah, to us and the guys.
But you can have one that puts it within centimeters.
Yep.
And then you can have one that does it within a foot, you know, and you can get different accuracy. So if you're doing a gate box, if it's within a foot, that's fine. But I mean, if you want to pinpoint the exact
Yeah.
valve on the main, you
Yeah.
can do the exact location of that. So I mean, it's huge. I mean, then you can walk the water line and have it GIS and put it in the cloud, and we could tie it to the town's GIS system.
Now, who's
It's
gonna,
huge, so.
who's gonna inspect all these? We're
We're
gonna
gonna do
take, we're gonna take the word of the guy digging these up, or
We're gonna dig them up. Or if
Or
it's a
we're gonna
vacuum
hire-
truck,
yeah,
we're gonna
vacuum
be there
truck.
watching them vacuum.
Yeah.
everyone?
Well, I'm not gonna do
Well,
it.
no, that's what they have this whole model. We'll say we have the 2,500 customers, we're gonna give them proof. We just installed this house, this is the material we use.
All right, what about the other 1,000 we're talking about? Who's gonna be standing there at the hall when
I
these
think they're
guys?
gonna do a general, hey, this
Yeah.
development was put in 1945.
Hey,
So
miss-
maybe they vacuum up one at the curb stop and they say, hey, it's copper on this side, it's copper on that side. Well, if this one is, we're pretty confident they all are.
And that's what they talked about, that
Confidence level.
AI modular, that they plug it in and this calculating system will sit there and say, okay, we're guessing this, like he said, that this, they're gonna put in, a whole development was installed in this year, it's gonna pick, okay, no, chances are you don't have it, I don't know, all the computer stuff, but hopefully, I'll have more, did a bunch of Zooms, I'm hoping by the next meeting in 2 weeks to have a couple numbers for us to put together, because by the end of February, I would like to have the articles somewhat kind of drawn up, because we have to allocate the money for it.
Are they planning on working in more, well, you probably wouldn't know, it's more than one spot in town, or is there gonna be?
Oh, it's gonna be scattered. Yeah.
All right, so
We're gonna
this-
pick, like, hey, let's go vacuum up three watt. We say vacuum up because
Yeah.
we're less likely to damage something.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a thing, we gotta dig with the backhoe, we dig it, let's say we need to fix the curb stop. I have no problem going with the backhoe and dig it up. We're gonna see which
Fix it and
sides,
do it,
both
yeah.
sides are.
All right.
Yep.
Can be all good.
I think it's gonna be a mess.
No, it is, but.
This DEP is pushing it though, it's gotta be done.
I
I
kinda
know
got
that.
the engineers, I'm not gonna say everything I said, but it doesn't make any sense because lead water lines were stopped early 1900s. Our system was installed 1939.
Yeah.
In my opinion, we don't even need to prove anything.
The water district was established in 1939.
Water lines were going in 1939.
Okay.
So there was no.
I would have thought there was no water ahead of time, like Leominster didn't have.
Leominster had water in Lunenburg. I
Right.
don't know what's going on in their system. They
Well,
they
it was
could have
full of lead.
Yeah, they probably. Well,
So
no,
they-
their water lines are replaced.
Prior to 1939, Leominster or Fitchburg didn't feed any properties within the boundaries of Lunenburg.
Leominster did, the Whalen area.
Right, but did they retain that when the district was formed, or did we pick that up?
No, they own all that.
They kept
They-
it.
They kept it. So,
Okay.
but I mean, this is where the thing, this doesn't make any sense, because if you asked an engineer, hey, my system was put in 1939, do I have any lead service? They're gonna say, no, you absolutely not.
Right.
They stopped using lead 30 years before that.
Well,
So, but then you
But-
ask a politician,
Yeah.
you can tell a kind of politician that, well, lead solder was stopped in 1986, so you have to prove everything before 1986. Well, What kind of idiot would put lead service in 1970? No one. So why do you need to look past 90s? I mean,
So
even
this is what
1930. This is the stupidity
what
part.
DEP is
with-
making us do.
Politicians and bureaucrats are telling.
How's a politician gonna steal any money if you don't lie? Right? That's how it works. That's how.
So I'm hoping to have some numbers for the next one, so
Good.
keep you
I
posted.
kept that clean compared to what I really said.
So, the only thing that I have, both these are public records, so she can attach these to the minutes. Both letters from both attorneys.
She can attach the Coleman as a draft letter.
Yeah.
It hasn't officially been.
Okay. It doesn't
'cause I
say
received it
draft, it doesn't say draft anywhere on it. That's
On
where I
the
would-
email, it said draft.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I printed that from the email, so
Okay. But also the letter from the Woodlands, that's public record.
that's probably correct.
Yeah,
So that can go in
I plan
there
on
and
putting that with the minutes for you.
we'll throw that in there. That's all I got. You got anything else, John?
No, I'm done.
Fran, you got anything else?
No.
Christie? Any members of the public? Nope. So, we're gonna adjourn our meeting. Vote to
Okay.
adjourn?
And we're gonna go back to this other.
We're gonna adjourn and we're gonna reopen our